In this video, you'll learn to use the stroke and color overlay layer style effects to enhance the walls of this drawing. Open the kitchen1.psd file to follow along. Expand the layer group and scroll down. Select the walls layer and then click this icon to open a menu of layer style effects. Select stroke. This opens the layer style dialog box with the layer effects listed over here in the left pane. Now in this particular situation we have a layer group which has an invert adjustment layer at the top. So it's actually inverting this black stroke color to white. And that's why we don't see it over here on the screen. Let's click this color swatch and change the color to pure white. Click OK, and now you can see the stroke. You can increase the size of the stroke by dragging this slider. You can also change the position of where the pixels are added. Let's say they're centered on the lines. And you can get more accurate results if you click in the text box and use the up and down arrow keys to change these values 1 pixel at a time. I think 8 pixels looks just about right in this particular drawing. Click OK to close the dialog box. Now let's go ahead and think about filling the walls with color. Let's close this group because only the line work from AutoCAD belongs in here. Let's create a new layer by clicking this icon and then double click on the name and rename it Walls. Then go over here and select the Paint Bucket tool. Make sure Contiguous is selected here on the options bar. Black is currently the foreground color, and that's fine. It doesn't matter what color is selected. Instead, what matters here is that you fill in the bounded areas with pixels. And once that happens, we can manipulate the pixel color using the color overlay effect. So it gives us a lot of flexibility because we can change our mind later very easily. So I'm going to click right inside of this wall segment to fill that area with black pixels. Now if I click over here, watch what happens. Black fills up most of the drawing, and that's happening because the black is spilling out over here. This wall isn't closed, so the pixels are flooding out and filling up everything. So I need to undo that. In order to fill in this area, we need to somehow close this off. And we can do that by drawing a line. So use the line tool and select shape up here in the tool mode. And then select black as the fill color. Select solid color and then click on black. We want these lines to be thin, so set the weight at 1 pixel. And then draw a line across the edge here. If you want it to be straight, you can hold down the Shift key as you're dragging, and the line will be straight. I'd also like to close off this wall. And to be more organized, I'm going to use the Path Operations menu and choose Combine Shapes. This allows me to draw another line on the same shape layer. If you don't do that, what will happen is you'll get a secondary shape layer. So now I kept everything on this one layer, and you can see it contains both of those 2 line segments. These are just temporary construction lines, if you will. They're going to close off these walls so that I can fill them with pixels. Go back to the walls layer, choose the paint bucket, and fill in here and here. Then you can turn off the shape layer if you like. So far, so good. The next step is to change the color of the black pixels to something else. So to do that, click this icon and select Color Overlay. Now we can choose a color. I'll choose a deep red. Click OK and OK again. It turns kind of a dark gray, but not a red. And the reason for that is evident right here. This drawing says gray. That means it's in grayscale mode. We need to go up to the Image menu and choose Mode, RGB color. We're prompted if we want to merge all of the layers, and we want to be careful here and make sure that we select Don't Merge, or we will end up flattening the document. So now we have an RGB document, and we still have gray here. So I'm going to go back into Color Overlay, double-click on the word Color Overlay to do that, and then click on this color swatch and choose a deeper red. Once you get the hang of this, it becomes second nature, and it allows you to make changes very quickly. You see, I can later decide that this is the wrong color, and I want to change it. It's very easy just to double-click on Color Overlay, click here, and try a different color. Another problem that I see here is we see a haloing of white around the lines. Let's zoom in and take a look at that. When we zoom in, the problem seems to disappear. However, when we zoom out, at a certain point, you'll see that reappear. And this is a display artifact. And we can get rid of that by turning off the stroke that we applied earlier. So let's go in here and temporarily toggle off the stroke that we applied to the line work. And zoom in, and you'll see that there's a gap surrounding the filled pixels with the line work. And that gap is the width of the stroke that we applied. That's why we're getting this display artifact. We can fix that by turning on the Shape 1 layer so that it closes off those walls, using the paint bucket again, making sure you're on the walls layer, and clicking right in here to fill that area with pixels. I'm going to pan up here and continue filling in any areas like this that are not covered with pixels. And I'll just continue doing that. And finally, we can toggle off the Shape 1 layer, and we can also go back here and toggle the stroke back on. I'll close this. Another issue is that some of the stroke might be covered up by the filled pixels, and you can see that right down here. This has to do with the layer order. I'm going to drag this group up to the top of this layer stack, and now the stroke covers up those areas. So you have to consider all of these variables when you're setting up a project such as this. So in this video, you've learned how to stroke lines and use the color overlay layer style effect to enhance the walls layer.